Excellent. Okay, so again, you are here on a webinar with Cornerstones of Science and some fellow librarians, and really focusing in on library innovation and pivoting. The key word for this year, pivoting, right? during this challenging time of COVID-19. And I am the Program and Library Support Manager for Cornerstones of Science. Again, my name is Sarah Post, and I've been with this organization for about 5.5 years. Also with us today is Betta Stoddard. She's also with Cornerstones of Science, and she's working with us as a communications and marketing position. I'm happy to have a couple of presenters on the webinar, a fellow librarians here, Amy Hand with the Camden Public Library in Camden, Maine. And I'll get them to do a little more introductions about themselves and their libraries here in just a few minutes when they present. But also Adam Pitts with the Gwinnett County Public Library. And he's at the Lawrenceville branch, and he's the branch manager there. So how about Betta, you want to just do a little bit of housekeeping on?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So just a reminder that we are going to go ahead and record this webinar so that we can make it available upon request and put it on our website. A couple folks have already told us they couldn't make it today, so they're going to look for the recording. If you're uncomfortable for any reason being recorded, you can raise your hand and I will read your question for you. So you're welcome to do that. And also, if you don't mind, just in case there's any dogs or kids or whatever, male people in the background, go ahead and put yourselves on mute during the presentation. But feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. If you need a clarifying question during the presentation, go ahead and do that. And there's also going to be a discussion period after the presentations where we're hoping to have a conversation. So that's it. Again, we've recorded it and I'll be your co-host. Thanks for coming.
Great. And I know many folks now are experts on Zoom and webinars, but I think it's always good to just sort of, everyone's different, and this one is a little bit different. I think a lot of the webinars now, you know, they sort of control the mute, and again, of course, some of them have hundreds of people on them, so it's no doubt that's appropriate. But I just want to reiterate that we do hope to have a little bit more of a discussion with this webinar, and talk to your peers here. That's who's here at this webinar. I'm going to just give a brief background on Cornerstones of Science. I know many of you on this webinar know about Cornerstones, and I know a number of you, but just to give a brief background, Cornerstones now has been around for over 20 years. So many of you may not have realized that. We sort of just came more around the United States anyways, since about 2015. So, and then we'll go into, for today, get into our discussion around innovating and pivoting during this time, kind of focusing more on the programmatic side. We're gonna hear from Amy Hand and Adam about some of the interesting things that they've been doing in their libraries and their library staff there as well. And again, you know, they're gonna present probably about 10 minutes each, but we do hope to have a discussion after each of their presentations. So we're not going to leave all of the questions till the end of the webinar. We really want to talk with them and talk to one another about what they've been doing and what you've been doing. Hopefully we'll have some time to talk a little bit about safety around programming at the library. I know it's a big topic right now, and it's changing all the time, just like most things. And we'll also go into a few resources. Again, I could have just been here all day, right, typing up resources, but I'm just gonna provide you a few, and we can definitely talk about some more. We'd love some go-to resources from you guys, and maybe you'll learn about a few more here as well. All right, just a little background on Cornerstones. We have been working to really bring science to the community, specifically through the public library system for many, many years now. And in Maine, we're actually located in Brunswick, Maine. Some folks know Bowdoin College, that's just right down the road. Again, it's 21 years that we've been around. We focused early on in our work around circulating, actually science trunks where a scientist would go with the trunk and deliver programming. Then we moved to a circulating trunk system where it would circulate through the public library system in varieties of ways, including the, many here people know the Freedom Express, or the interlibrary loan system here. And we also are known for our science kits. We've been working on developing science kits for a number of different projects. Our flagship program really has been the Cornerstones of Science Library Telescope program since about 2012. We also do some professional development staff for libraries. And we have had in the past a number of annual STEM conferences for Maine libraries, had webinars, and part of what I've been doing for almost the past 5 years is the NASA at My Library project. We've been doing a lot of training, some in-person trainings, some webinar pieces and videos. We have developed some STEM resources and content. STEMlibraries.org is a piece that we've worked on. RevUpTheFund.org is actually a new initiative that we worked on during the old beginning of COVID-19 to move from kind of science trunks to more science activities that families can do at home. So all those activities are online. We'll talk about some resources at the end. And then for us as well, how do we get people outdoors safely? Cornerstones is working on a safe and sane star party that we're developing. So that's an exciting new initiative for us, working again with communities and libraries and astronomy clubs. And just to kind of hit home a little bit, we've just developed this cool map. We're pretty happy with this. I don't know how you see it really well or not, but we've helped get almost 600 library telescopes into public libraries around the United States, again, since about 2012, either directly working with libraries or with local astronomy clubs in those specific states. So this is kind of a cool map that we recently developed. So Deborah, I just saw your chat. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you're enjoying your, I think you mean telescope. That's great. Excellent. So yeah, I mean, I even see, you know, we're moving so quickly and things are changing, and we're still actually selling some telescopes to libraries. We actually have at least one in Michigan, so I see that's missing. But I think it's pretty neat when I look at this map. We are heavy in New England, but we do have library telescopes in about 28 states now. So yeah. And Melissa, I did see your chat, and we can talk a little bit more on how to get a library telescope, or you can go to cornerstonesofscience.org for that, but we can go on a little bit more. But let's get into why you're here today, to talk about innovating and pivoting at the library and with library programs. So in general, right, at the libraries, everyone has had to pivot to either all online, virtual. Some folks have taken on curbside service, right? We see some limited openings with limited in-person, where you can kind of have a certain number of people in the library. And I'd love to hear from you guys about some other ways that you're working with, working at your library or working with your community and how they're engaging at the library in general. Anybody have kind of a different way other than what's here about how you're interacting with your patrons? I think that kind of right now seems to be those kind of 3 ways seem to be what's really happening right now. I don't know too many libraries that are fully open and to anyone that wants to come in, but yeah, speak up if oops. Oh, how do I go back? Yikes. Nope. Let me stop sharing here. Here we go. All right. There we go. Sorry about that.
I'm going to post the Telescope web page on the chat for those who are interested.
All right, we're back. Can you guys see that? Yeah, that great.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the big things that we've seen is these take and make bags or grab and go bags have really exploded. They can be anywhere from science focused, and again today we're not really focusing just on science. We're focusing on all different pieces, but some of folks are calling them grab and go because of the curbside, where folks can kind of come and pick up their books and grab a activity bag, science bag. I've seen a variety of ones, anywhere from different crafts to kind of little science experiments. Videos have been very popular. We're going to hear from Amy Hand here in a few minutes, who's been doing a lot of videos, and some folks are tackling Facebook Live. Storytime walks is one that I think is very interesting, where libraries are having kind of large print of books printed out on maybe like a card stock and stapled to a stake, and kind of have a pathway a way for people to read a book with their families. I think that's a pretty impressive, interesting way to have family groups be together and walk along a path and engage in an activity. One of the interesting ones I saw recently is an outdoor drive-through events. One coming up I've seen is about Halloween, where people are wondering how is everybody going to do Halloween? Is everybody just going to stay home? Well, we've seen some very creative, innovative ways to have stations at businesses around the towns or cities where folks can kind of drive up. Kids don't get out of the car. They kind of maybe have their bags out, and someone is standing there at that business and handing out the candy. Very different creative ways of that. The interactive movie experience I found recently, I thought was very exciting. Kind of harkens back to the old Rocky Horror Picture Show, where these little scripts allow families to kind of have this interactive movie experience where as they're following along in a script, someone can throw up some popcorn or throw a beach ball or something that has to do where it can kind of be a little more engaging movie experience at home for families. And I've seen where librarians have developed these experiences, and I think there's other places that are developing these as well. Really love a lot of the window displays. That's been a great early way for folks at libraries to, reach out to their community without having any, in contact at all, not knowing some libraries that were, not knowing when they were going to open, but having displays that have a thematic piece to them. You guys are always so great at developing and putting up displays. So those were very interesting early on. I think those are continuing as well. Missions and badging, online missions and badging were very popular for the summer. And I know those have been popular in the past. I think this summer was, some libraries had a good, some great missions and maybe not so great interaction. Others, you know, things went really, really well. So I know that a lot of these pieces that I'm talking about today, some are kind of, you know, hit and miss, and even sometimes week to week. You just never know. I know Amy's going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, about some of her videos as well. Virtual trivia, super popular. I know a lot of different folks are looking how to do trivia for the libraries to do that with their community. Those have been some popular programming. And the escape rooms, where a family will have a script, if you will, and have to go through solving some problems to escape a room in their house or something like that. So I know that those have been popular. I've seen librarians developing these, and it's been very, very impressive to see all of the activities that are really coming out of the library world, developing these, and yes, some frustration as well as excitement to as they develop and are received or are not received. So I hope that you guys can maybe discuss now just a little bit about some of the innovating or pivoting programs that you guys are doing. Anybody want to speak up on one or two of them? Hi, Amy. Oh,
okay. So I'll jump in and just say, you mentioned the story walks. For anybody who does not know, Let's Go 123, which is a health program here in Maine. They have 2 or 3, maybe 4 story walks that are available to librarians free. You just have to either go pick up the story walk, or you have to pay for mailing it or whatever. I've always picked mine up, but I have utilized them. So for anybody who lives in Maine, there are story walks available. There's one for Catherine Falwell's Turtle Splash, I believe is the book, and then Chris Van Duzen's Down to the Sea with Mr. McGee. They have been printed on that plastic cardboard.
Oh yeah.
Cardboard, and then they have metal stakes to put them in, and you don't have to do anything. You just have to get them, and you use them, so you can call them and reserve them. So
wow, that's huge. Yeah, because I was one of the resources I give at the end is again another Maine company, Island Port Press. You can get some through them, but it's, you know, it costs some money. It's I think just for the card stock. I don't think they give you the stakes or anything like that. But I think just the book printed on the cardstocks, I think it was something like $65. And then if you wanted them laminated, it was $100 and something. So,
sure. So Holly is asking what the company was. It's Let's Go.
Yeah.
Maine. I think it's Let's Go 123. They've changed their name a couple times.
Did they? Okay.
It's a health initiative about getting kids outside and active, and the story walks are the entire story printed, and then there's activity cards that are kind of part of it too. So it might say,
oh, nice.
You know, pretend or look or whatever, you know, and because Chris Van Duzen lives here and is a good friend of mine, he came and did it with us. So nice. I spread it out all over the library property, and that was really cool. So it's a great resource. Please take advantage of it, because it's awesome. And especially.
Yeah. Anybody else have?
There are some questions on the chat you might want to.
Okay.
look at.
I can't
Amy,
seem.
okay, Amy, one is they're asking, what is the name of that company again that you mentioned that's providing these story walks in Maine?
That's what I just said. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay. And then there's a question about struggling because of the population of the library, the age, and hesitancy with Zoom. Any tips on how to help people navigate Zoom who are unfamiliar with it?
Anybody want to tackle that? Has anybody?
I might touch on that in my presentation.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely come back to some of these questions too. And I did get 2 questions from a librarian that we're going to address towards the end as well. But yeah, these are challenging. They're not easy. You know, they take time and money. I mean, I've seen some grab and go bags that can be quite pricey. And so, you know, some folks are making like 15 or 20, which I think is very reasonable. But if it's higher numbers, then you really have to think about what that activity is that you want to put in a grab and go bag. So for Zoom, yeah, it's a challenge. I think there's some, you know, different programs coming out too. I see some folks using Teams. So they're all a little bit, you know, similar, a little bit different. But I think part of it is just practice, you know, getting in there and being willing to do it, and being willing for things to kind of go wrong at times, and just you know, getting in there and asking the questions for sure. But I think there's some, you know, folks in the community who are helping with some technology. So I would kind of seek out some different groups of folks, retired folks who are helping with different technology pieces. But yeah, not an easy piece to figure out. So let's go on to have Amy present. Again, Amy is with the Camden Public Library in Camden, Maine.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, for inviting me. Just a little background. I have been the head children's librarian here well, I've been here 20 years. I was assistant children's librarian for 7 years, and I'm still at it. And this year looks very, very different than it has ever looked in my life. I miss my kids a lot. And when I was told that we were closing on March 16th, I said, oh, hell, we are not. And I am going to do programs, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I did my very first video for my families on YouTube that night. And that one video has over 200 views. And I read The Buddy Bench, which is a Tilbury House book, super duper book. And I had permission, and I don't always have permission. We decided as a library that it is fair use, what I'm doing right now. And so I have done almost 300 videos. I have already done 3 today. And my boss asked me, you know, why don't you do them ahead of time? And I'm like, because they are relevant to each day that I'm doing my videos. And I am working circulation. There are 5 of us, and there have only been 4 of us for quite some time now. All of our part-timers were furloughed. So that, you know, really changed what we are doing. I upload my videos to YouTube, and then I share my video on my library page, our library Facebook page, my Facebook page, and then I also upload it to Instagram. And sometimes I have to do a separate video for Instagram because a video cannot be more than, it's changed since I started doing them. It used to be like 9 minutes, and then it was like 12 minutes, and now you have to keep it, I think, under 15 minutes or under 14 minutes or whatever in order to upload it to Instagram. So every once in a while, a video that I do, because it's a long story. In fact, Velma Gratch and the Way Cool Butterfly, I read that and talked with the kid, you know, like talked to my kids and my families, and realized that it was more than 15 minutes. And I was like, oh, so I couldn't do that one on Instagram, which happens every once in a while. So I try really hard. I have a timer that I keep, but every once in a while I forget to set the timer, or I'm not paying attention to the clock. I do find that the more hashtags that I use, I've watched a couple of videos on, you know, how to get more likes and blah, blah, blah. And the more hashtags that you use in your video, either on Instagram or on YouTube, will get you more hits, because when somebody's looking for something in particular or something that has that keyword in it, it may pop up, you know, on the side when they're looking. I have not limited, so just recently I started getting questions from YouTube about whether my video was meant for kids, because if it is, then it limits it. And so I didn't. None of mine are supposedly you know, like meant for kids, because mine are, and I don't think that's being unjust, because they are meant for the families and the kids. So if a parent is responsible, they're going to find them, and I don't have anything inappropriate in my videos anyways, and I don't think anybody's going to sue me. So, but just in the last week, I have had a pop-up come up every single time I read aloud a story, and I put kidlit in as a hashtag and read aloud. It is asking me if it's kid appropriate or kid like limited, and I say no. So hopefully, because it says I'm legally responsible for doing that, but I'm not worried. So I'm doing story times. I do my book time for babies. In a normal year, I normally do 5 story times a week anyways. So I am a super busy library and a very active library with my patrons. And so, and then I do monthly programs as well. So I really tried with my videos to continue all of the programs that I normally would be doing. They might be at different times. So time, you can't say, oh, at 10 o'clock, that it's going to be specific to a particular video, because sometimes it takes longer to upload. Sometimes I don't have enough internet and it won't upload. You know, sometimes I get with a patron, or it's so busy because of curbside, because we're doing curbside, that I can't upload it. So it's not at a specific time, but I do at least 2 every day. I do a story time and I do a craft. And then sometimes on other days, I do book talks. So every Thursday I do middle grade book talks, and I book talk about 4 books. And then I go, I've done a bunch of let's do something series. I've done let's, build a snowman, ride a tractor on my farm, make muffins, blow bubbles, make a fairy house, lots of other things like that, where I actually take the camera outside and I'm riding on a tractor or I'm building a snowman. So they're just fun videos. And can you explain how I do the crafts? Sure. So when I do craft videos, I turn my video so that it's up and down, so that you can see me. And if anybody wants to look at my videos, it's Miss Amy Hand on YouTube. You can find them. And I have a tripod, and I don't have it right with me, or I would show you what it looks like. So I have a tripod that is small. It's only about this big, and it holds my phone. All of my videos are recorded on this phone, which is just the Samsung Galaxy 8. And so there are definitely better things out there, and I wish that it was easier to upload. But that's the easiest way for me to do it. And, you know, if you had an iPad, that would be great too. But I turn it so that you can see me and my table space. And then I talk through the whole thing, and I explain, and I hold things up, and I fold the paper, and I have a sample of the craft done usually beforehand, so I can say, okay, this is what we're making, and then this is how we're going to do it, and these are the supplies that you need. So someone could stop the video and go gather the supplies. And I always try and have adaptations. So if someone doesn't have colored construction paper, they can use newsprint and markers to color whatever it is. So I try and do that. And I also try to think about, not always, but supplies that parents and kids would have in their home that anybody would have. You know, most people have some type of glue or tape or something, and some kind of coloring utensil. And most people have paper of some sort. If you don't have cardstock, you have cereal cardboard and box board. So you can always use the inside of cereal cardboard. It is my favorite thing to use for that kind of things. And toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls and newspaper and magazine. You can do 1,000,001 things with those things that you have at home that so many kids have. So I did want to share as I wrap up, I did summer reading program. We did it via Zoom. I do a weekly Maine Student Book Award Club via Zoom. I do a weekly chat every week, which has changed now that school is back, because my families that were a part of that, and I had about 6 families that were doing that, are all back to school. Their kids are back to school in some fashion, and so we can't do it at 10 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays anymore. And then I have YA book group, and I do a weekly art and journaling group for adults and teens. And I have been doing that in person. We used to do it in person, and then we had to move to Zoom, but I started last week doing my very first outdoor, masked, socially distant, sign up story time. I had 2 families. I had 4 total, parents, kids. And this week I did it for the second time in person, everybody with masks, including me, socially distanced, and there were 12 this week. So, we're gonna do it next week, and you know, weather dependent, and folks are asking for a craft. So I decided that I can do that. I'm gonna prep all materials, grab and go type thing. I'll have them in little paper bags, because I have a bunch of little like teeny itty bitty snack bags that we bought for something, and I have like 300 of them that nobody's used yet, because they don't fit any books. And I will have those and a glue stick, because I can wash the glue sticks and sanitize them very easily, and I can do the same with scissors. So that's what I'm doing, and I am keeping at it and trying to do as much for my families as I possibly can, and I can't wait to see them. You know, I've started seeing more families in the library, because we're open hybrid. We do curbside in the morning, and we're open to a limited number, 5. We have 5 tags in the library, but a family can come in as 1 tag from 1 to 6. And that's the way we're doing it. So.
Wow, nice, Amy. I know, I see that you're doing a lot. I live in near community to Amy, and so appreciate all that she's doing. you know, one of the things she mentioned to me, and I think she mentioned it here, sometimes you get 2 people, right? Sometimes you get 12, but she's not deterred, you know, she's really not deterred, and she doesn't take it personally. And, you know, you don't necessarily stop. You might pivot a little bit here and there, but you know, you try and you try again. So it's very, very impressive. Yeah, yeah, love it.
Thanks.
Anybody have a question for Amy before we go to Adam?
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. All right. All right. So I'm happy to have Adam Pitts here with us. He's the branch manager at the Lawrenceville branch of the Gwinnett County Library System in Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Yeah, hi everyone. Adam Pitts. I've been with Gwinnett County Public Library now for about 7 years, actually almost 8 years. And I've been at this branch for about 3 of those years. So this year has certainly been the one that stands out the most, probably for reasons we all can imagine. We just reopened again last Monday. This is actually our second reopening. We closed from April to June during the initial closure. We tried to reopen for a little while to the public, but as cases rose locally, we had to close again out of necessity. And now cases are going down again, and we felt it was safe with the mask requirement to reopen. So we've done that, and seems to be going pretty well so far. Definitely quieter than usual, but we are, one of the big pivots has been offering virtual programs in lieu of in-person programs. Since April, everything has been entirely virtual. We've suspended all in-person programming as well as in-person outreach. So of course that's brought some challenges, but there's also been some silver linings, and it's gone so well, I think, that even when things do get back to normal, there will be a place for virtual programs. And half the battle really has been trying to figure out what exactly customers do want in virtual format, because it is so different. I mean, none of us had ever done virtual programs before, at least not at the branch level. And so it was kind of uncharted territory for us. And obviously there was a learning curve that went with that, with the filming and everything else. The different presentation style on camera and that sort of thing. But half the battle really was figuring out what they wanted, because it was a little different than what maybe did well in person. So I kind of identified several categories of virtual programs that seem to, based on feedback and view count, have gone really well and have been popular. All of our programs, the majority of our programs are pre-recorded, and they're all on our GCPL's YouTube page. Now we have been doing some live programs through Google Meet, things like book clubs and things that lend themselves to a live format, but by and large it's been pre-recorded. So the categories, there's 5 that I kind of identified. They're not all listed on this slide, but it's culinary programs, what I call self-reliance programs, cultural programs, and then history, civics related programs, and then lastly, STEM programs. But the culinary programs, just to give you a few examples of what has done really well. At our branch here at Lawrenceville, we offered, it's called Tea Around the World. It's a series where they talk about different teas, literally around the world, as the name implies. People really love those types of programs. They like culinary programs anyway, in person, but virtually they really love this. And then baking, there's a series called Baking with Becca, where she's done things like, you know, how to make pound cakes and different types of pastries and things like that. And then special diets, that has been another popular one. I think there was a question, let's see, in the chat. How did you determine those topics? Well, that actually, I'm going to address that in a slide in just a moment. But it really was based strictly on feedback from customers that were getting, like YouTube in the comment section, and also the view count. So the feedback loop has been one of the challenges, but I'll talk about that in a minute. And then self-reliance programs, it's kind of a sign of the times, I guess, but things like homesteading and like gardening and canning and all those things that were really hot topics, you know, several months ago during the first wave of closure. We've even done things like, you know, cleaning now that people are at home more, DIY, you know, people need to save money and handle things themselves. I even did a program, it was called Top 10 Tools for DIYers. It was a lot of fun. And just, you know, like household repairs. Cultural programs, and again, things that can kind of be done at home or learned at home. Like there was one we did on Vietnamese language. Gwinnett's a very diverse county, so there's a lot of interest in that. And then there was one called Head Wraps with NECA. That's the name of the staff member who did that. Had hundreds of views. It's been one of our most popular videos to date, but people love that. You know, and that's something that would do really well in person too. I mean, we might get a large crowd, but nowhere near like 400 people. And so that's really one of the advantages of virtual programming is now all of a sudden you're reaching a county-wide audience instead of just whoever sees it in branch or on the website, you know, or even potentially, you know, statewide or countrywide. I mean, we've had people from all over the country actually sometimes commenting on our program. So that's been one of the silver linings. And then history and civics programs tend to be, in my experience at least, kind of a tough sell for in-person programming. I don't know why that's the case, but it just seems like, you know, you don't draw huge crowds for these. But in virtual format, they've done great. We did one called The History and Leadership of African American Voting Rights, and there was one recently, 100 Years of Women Voting. Both of those had like over 100 views. So that's better than we could have ever hoped for if we offered this just at a single branch. And then lastly, STEM programming. We had a series called World Ocean Awareness Month, Pirate STEAM for the kids, and then several NASA My Library programs. And in fact, we've worked with Cornerstones of Science with it's called the Patron Experience Pilot. It was partly a research project to see what stimulated interest among patrons in Earth and space science topics. And one of the pivots involved with that, we had an in-branch display that was interactive, that was changed bi-weekly, but obviously we had to discontinue that because of the touch surfaces. So we pivoted to take and make bags, activity bags over the summer. And those did really well. We relied on our community partners a lot to help us distribute those because during the summer we were closed except for curbside service only. And there wasn't a ton of traffic coming through. So our partners helped a lot with that in the community who were doing like food distributions at the co-ops and food pantries and things like that. But that went very well too. So I want to go to the next slide and talk a little bit about the challenges. And I mentioned the filming and editing learning curve. Fortunately, most of our branches we have 15 branches in the system. Most of them had at least a couple of members on staff who had some experience with filming and editing. We also have learning labs, which are kind of like maker spaces at several of our branches, and those staff were able to help out too with the training aspect of that. But just bringing everybody up to speed on, you know, quality content and making it visually appealing. Another challenge was avoiding overlap among the 15 branches, because as you can imagine, people start to have kind of the same ideas, and we don't want to, you know, overlap in our content or reinvent the wheel. But the bright side of that is it has really driven innovation. We kind of created a system-wide spreadsheet where all of the approved programs would go, and when we all check that before we create the next round of programs so that we don't, you know, overlap. So we've really had to think outside the box to make things to create content that has not already been done before. And as a result, we've had some really creative programs. It's been great, which kind of ties into the whole feedback loop part of this and what customers want, to answer somebody's question from earlier. We really didn't, I mean, we kind of had to do it first to determine what was going well. So really the first few months, it was kind of an experiment. And then once we started getting that feedback, we were able to plan, you know, there was a little bit of a delay there because we had to find out what was doing well before we could take the next step. But we planned, you know, several months out into the future usually. And so once we had that feedback, we were able to kind of steer our programming in that direction. So I think over time, it's just kind of getting better and better. we are planning to do virtual only for at least the first quarter of 2021, and we may revisit in-person programming and outreach after that. But just out of safety concerns, we are still holding off on the in-person aspect. And then lastly on this slide, marketing is a little different, obviously. A lot of that used to be in branch, where we would have posters and bookmarks and flyers, and to minimize those touch surfaces, again, we've eliminated those, except for just posters now that we're open. But while we were closed for curbside only, we would just tell people word of mouth, or we would do social media marketing and get the word out through our community partners. So that posed a little bit of a challenge, but again, I think we've adapted well to that. And as the YouTube stats show, people are finding our content. So I really feel like from here out, it's just gonna continue to improve. So overall, a good experience. It's a setback in one sense, but in another sense, I think, there's been growth, and we've adapted, and there's some things we're going to be able to use even after this pandemic is over, hopefully sooner rather than later.
So Adam, one of the things that we took advantage of with our virtual programming is that we're able to connect with lots of other speakers that are outside that normally we wouldn't be able to afford to bring in personally, but we can do that now that we're doing it virtually. So we've had, presenters from California and stuff that we've connected with or have personal connections with that we're able to get in. So I know that is, I'm sure you're finding that as well, that there is an advantage to the virtual programming with bringing speakers in from a wider market.
For sure. And, we've had like author speakers and things like that. Also locally, like the Atlanta Astronomy Club, we're doing a virtual program that airs this Saturday, in fact, on International Observe the Moon Night. So we brought in a lot of outside presenters. So it's not just been staff, but outside presenters to do our virtual programs. So, and again, they reach a much larger audience this way.
Very nice, Adam. Thank you so much. Let's see if there are, I know there was a few questions. These are a couple of questions that got sent to us, and maybe they've been answered, but I think how to do programming in times of COVID, when the local community is kind of overdosed with online programs. Someone wanna tackle that one, or just give their thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's why we had to really think hard about what had not been done before, and because certain topics are pretty saturated. I mean, we found that things like crafts maybe, or just programs that are just strictly slideshows or lectures, that type of content can be found commonly on YouTube. So we really needed to find something that wasn't being done elsewhere, that was unique. And so that's really driven innovation. That's one way. And I think that there's another question about how did your library work with those in the community who are not tech savvy? Well, we were able to offer, Wi-Fi service in our parking lots while we were closed to the public. The building was closed. Other than that, we were pretty limited. I mean, we had virtual book a librarian and other appointments that we could do to try to help, but that was a drawback. People who maybe didn't have access, might be more limited. Unfortunately, that's the nice thing. We wanted to get reopened as soon as possible so that we could provide that assistance and provide computer access. So right.
I know Pamela Bobker mentions that they have started a podcast. She says it's challenging but fun. Yeah, I bet. Anybody had a podcast, or that does sound fun?
Yeah,
something new to think about for sure.
About it being
yeah, and I think we're thinking on the second question here on this slide, what kinds of programs will people come to online? Having talked with Amy and Adam. I think, you know, trying new things, looking at the analytics, asking the questions, maybe, you know, putting a survey out there. Some folks are willing to kind of do a survey, and you know, I think just starting and looking. I do hear about the culinary. The culinary does seem to be pretty popular, and even I think some libraries are getting chefs, you know, so not just doing not doing the programming just yourself, right? But pulling in community members to do what they do, but do what they do best, for sure. All right, anybody have any other questions for Adam and Amy? You can unmute yourself if you'd like, or ask the questions, or ask in chat. Chat seems to be popular. Let's see. Yeah. So Pam's saying that people don't always attend live, which we totally understand that. Yeah, but most people look later. I'm guilty of that. I'm definitely guilty of that, right? Where attending a program seems great. You put it on your calendar, and then either you're booked yourself up, or you're just going to watch it later. So
yeah, I mean, there's no substitute for in-person interaction. I mean, I think we could all agree to that. But the nice thing about virtual too is that they can watch it anytime. I mean, it'd be 2 a.m.
right.
So, you know, it works for everybody.
Exactly. You never know.
Yeah, I will note to Deborah Lay, she said, are you all counting your attendance in your counts? So we do count our views of the videos on YouTube and on Instagram as part of our attendance. And then for our adult programs, most of our adult programs are via Zoom, but many of them, I mean, we've done Facebook Live things as well. And we record all of our adult programs, and that most of the attendance, even if we have 100 people in a Zoom presentation, by the end of the month, we have way more views because lots of people have done it after the fact.
Right.
They've done it on their own time. I mean, I don't look at anything before like 11 o'clock at night because I'm too busy. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good way to think about it. It's more over time now instead of a one, you know, bang, you got one chance to do it. And I think people are feeling a little more comfortable of accessing things when they need to. And I think that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So I want to just quickly move on. I want to respect everybody's time. We're coming up on the end of the hour. And just quickly, really, just let you know, I'm sure many of you are aware that there's, you know, all these safety issues that have to be considered. The reopening archives, libraries, and museums realm project is a good resource to go to for they're doing all kinds of research on library things and activities. And the recent piece that just was published is around items that are stacked, you know, that may be quarantined for a certain amount of time, but that the COVID virus is still staying on books and other items that are stacked, even though they're in quarantine for a certain amount of time. So I just would recommend checking that Realm project out for updates. They've got some really good information there. Some libraries are coming up with sanitation plans. I know that that's around kits, you know, and other items. Some libraries are using UV light, others maybe using some bleach water solution. And you guys, I don't know if there's any discussion that wants to be had here, but if anybody else is using other items, you know, Clorox wipes, yeah, Clorox, yeah. You know, staying distance and masked for many programs. I think one of the biggest things too to think about is the online safety. One of the pieces that have come up is sometimes there's these webinar bombers, which I was crossing my fingers on ours, that hopefully nobody comes on. And I've heard of some meetings getting crashed with live music and inappropriate pictures. Hopefully you guys haven't had anything like that, but there's definitely some protocols, especially around registration for webinars and Zoom. And Amy, did you have a comment?
So that only happened to me once, and it was in an open meeting that somebody had. It was not, I was not the host, I was a presenter, but they had someone who was monitoring. You know, there was an additional person, not just the monitor and stuff, and they were able to shut it down. But I haven't had any issues. I have a password for like all of my kids' programs. When I did summer reading program and everything, and only those kids got that password. It was not open share. So don't open share it.
Yeah, that seems to be the best practices, is having a code for your meetings. And so Pam's saying she's changed to the webinar version of Zoom for her author events, so they don't have to have a registration or password. Attendees are not on camera and cannot chat. Doesn't work for interactive events. So that's something to think about. Yeah, there's all kinds of different settings, right? Get to know Zoom in the settings, I think, is a big piece if you have time. And the other one is just Facebook Live. I don't know if anybody's used Facebook Live, but sometimes the comments can be inappropriate, and hopefully that you're able to kind of move those folks along or delete certain comments. I just know that those are a couple of pieces. Thinking about safety. Wanted just to show you these resources. The Islandport Press was the one I mentioned earlier about the story walks, printings that they have available for sale. RevUpTheFun.org is STEM content for folks at home, using at-home items. There's a number of different pieces here, resources here that can be used. I know we really didn't go into Facebook groups for resources for us, but Programming a Librarian Interest Group is a Facebook group online that's been pretty active. It's through ALA, but that's a great Facebook group for programming ideas and learning about what all kinds of people are doing in the library world. And I've had good luck with STEM in 30, which is through the Smithsonian Institute. We have a lot of great pieces that are combining things like combining history and STEM to kind of bring people on in a different way. You know, if they don't like history or they don't like science, kind of brings them in a different way. So I'm gonna take one more chat here, see what, can anybody read that chat? Oh, there we go. Amy, how did the kids get the code? Did you put password on the library website?
No, I have emails, so anybody had to email, my email is on there, on the website, so that people can ask, and then they email me and I send them the link, the direct link.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah.
So,
And I know Zoom can do that as well. Yeah. Melissa, did you have a comment? Sure, she's on here.
I was just saying thank you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, I know you have to go. So join us again if you'd like. We're going to be talking about outdoor library programming on Wednesday, October 21st. This is just a flyer of something that we're, again, I think mentioned outdoor. People are loving outdoor viewing and wanting to know more about how to learn how to view the night skies. What does all that mean up there, and how do I find my way around? So we're going to talk about that on the 21st. And thank you guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. It was great discussion, and we hope to see you again.
thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.